It's not about me. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. Um, I would love for you to introduce yourself because I probably feel like I might not make a great job of it. But who is Claude Silver? What do you do? Yeah, in your own words.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Claude Silver. I'm the Chief Heart Officer at Vayner, which is an umbrella company for many different digital and social media companies, e-commerce companies that are operating around the globe. I have been here for 9.5 years.
Wow.
And been in the Chief Heart Officer role, which we created almost 8 years, which is unbelievable.
Fantastic. Well, I think I've probably known of you or had an awareness of you, obviously through Gary, because I'm a big fan of Gary. I've followed his work for probably more than a decade, I would say. And then I obviously saw you come back into the fold because I think you worked previously for Gary and then went away and come back. So that was all right because we were just talking before we kind of properly started recording that you were in London, and that's how kind of I guess you know Joe as well from London days.
Yeah. I was, long story short, I met Gary when I was living in London. It was August of 2013, and I had been introduced to him on an email from my best friend. I had been following him as well and just really loved his common sense, no BS way of just saying what was. And
Yeah.
it was the truth for me. And one thing led to another, and I came and had a breakfast with him in New York City, September of 2013. And by May of 2014, I was working for him. And I had always been a strategist or an account person in advertising agencies. And so I started as I was the first SVP that he hired, which was a big deal at that time. And I was a woman, and I am a woman, and I was one of the three oldest people at that time. I think our average age was 23.
Wow.
And I'm well above that. It's probably almost double that. And about a year into me working here, and I had a great time. I had a wonderful team, about 60 people. We would do meetings on Wednesday night, and we would have rosé and sparkling water and cupcakes, and we would just read poetry to one another. It was really
Oh,
cool.
how beautiful.
It was awesome. But I lost the love of advertising. I no longer wanted to try to figure out how to get something into your hands as a consumer.
Right.
And so I told Gary, thank you so much. I love it here. You're the best. And I'm just done with advertising. And I had a really, really wonderful career in it. And Gary, being Gary, said, what do you want to do? And I said, I only care about the people here. I care about the heartbeat. And one thing then led to another. I ended up resigning. I found my backfill. I resigned because there wasn't a role like that. And 4 months later, he called me back and we had another breakfast. And he said, that's it. You're coming back. You're going to be Chief Heart Officer. And immediately I knew what that was. It just made sense to me. So I did, back to what you had asked, I did leave for 4 months. Obviously, we kept in touch, and I still kept in touch with all of the people that I had known and been mentoring and worked with. And it was just like, a shoe that fit completely.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal title, and I love it. It's a rock star title, but it's so much more than the title. It's,
Yeah.
you know it. If you have a heart to help, and that's what you're all about, and you want to leave people feeling better than you found them, leave people feeling like they are seen and that they matter, then you're CHO in my book.
Yeah, no, I love that. And one of my questions was, where did the title come from, you or Gary? And you obviously Gary was the one that it sounds like that came up with it. And it
Yeah.
is a wonderful title, but like you say, it's so much more than the title. Because I don't know how it works currently with you at Vayner, but I read somewhere that it's like you're a mentor for 700 people. Is it still the case? Does it still feel like that? Is that your
Yeah, I just took a deep breath. It's 2,000 people. And my remit in 2024 is actually to meet all of 2,000 people. So I am literally building a process so that I can do that. Because right now I probably know 600 people because I've been here for so long, but we've been hiring and expanded globally. And I don't know the people in Japan, and I don't know the people in Colombia, and I don't know all of the people in Mexico City. And I want to know all of them. That's what this culture is about. And that's why when I said to Gary, I love it here. You know, I only care about the people. I care about the heartbeat. I actually firmly believe that there is a heartbeat that exists within our culture that is very palpable. It's an energy. And if there is anything I can do to foster that energy, to acknowledge that energy, to facilitate growth and change, whether or not that's in an individual or team or our companies, like, sign me up. I want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, well, it seems quite radical. And certainly all the time that I've been following Gary, he was obviously speaking like I'd never heard any other CEO really speak about, and the way that he speaks about people, from empathy, coming from a place of empathy and kindness and compassion and all of those things, and leading with that. And you know, that's, well, I still think it's quite rare. I still come up certainly a lot of challenges when I'm either coaching for an organization or companies, and you know, trying to get them to lead a little bit more with heart. And I'm like you, that I want to leave people better than I found them. And it literally hurts my heart when I come across people who you can see so much more within them that they can't see it for themselves, and they're not reaching that potential. For me, that I really like, that's why I think I do coaching, because I just really want to help people pull that out of people. And so people like you and Gary that are at such a high level, coming at it from your perspective and with the narrative that you both have, is still something quite rare, but it's absolutely wonderful to witness. And you know, no problem. And I obviously met you back in London in, I don't even know when it was, 2018, 2019 maybe. Was it?
Yeah, a while ago.
It was a while ago, yeah. And you were at Cornell's Positivity Summit, which was again an amazing event. But I just think, you know, because this is like your purpose, I guess, and also, and I see you leading with that, and literally everything you do, whatever social media channel you're on. But for me, it's like, how did you get to that point? Do you think that, like, this is innate in you, that this is who you were born this way, or is this something that's involved, and you know, you've created this version of Claude? Like, how did you get to here?
Oh, what a question, Sam. What a question. Wow. I got to hear by falling on my ass about 120 times, if
Okay.
not 100,000,020 times. I really did. You know, you brought something up a second ago, which was about really trying to facilitate someone's potential and them helping them see that they had potential. And I knew I had potential. I had no clue what I was going to do with that. I thought that, you know, maybe I would fizzle out at some time, and it would, you know, my tombstone would just read, you know, there lies Claude. She had potential. So at a very early age, because of all the falls, all the, you know, the fails that I had, I think, and low self-confidence, and just struggles that a lot of us have, and certainly in adolescence. I really got my butt kicked early, and I got into therapy early in my 20s. And through that, I really started to discover my own behavior and why I did certain things. And I really found human behavior so fascinating. I went very deep into psychology and spirituality and Jungian psychology and positive psychology and all of that stuff. Why? Because I believe in humans, and what I needed to do was find my path to believe in myself. So have I always been that person? I've always been that empathetic, intuitive person, 1,000%. What I've learned to do, many of the things I've learned to do, is how to be kinder to myself as I've aged, while I'm kind to others. And that's a lesson I think many of us empaths have to go through. I also credit my parents and of course my Nana, who I speak a lot about, who's my heart. We called each other heart, and she never a moment went by when she did not try to leave someone feeling better. Never. And she passed that to me. So I carry it as a badge of honor every day.
No, that's beautiful. Isn't it funny how often we have to really sack ourselves at ground zero to find our way, find the light, find the purpose? Like for me, I think, you know, the reason I call this podcast It Starts With You, it came after I really was in a very dark place, you know, on my ass basically for whatever
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
And I was uh just struggling with life, but I was also in a position where I was hard on myself, very, very hard on myself at that time. Um, but I was also blaming a lot of other people, and you know, a bit of the world for my position I was in. And I got some therapy. I'm pretty good at asking for help. That's one of my strengths. Um, and I realized that, you know, the podcast is called It Starts With You, and my business is called It Starts With You. And it was that moment, or I guess it wasn't just one light switch moment, but through that process of therapy and everything I was going through, it was like for me, in order for me to take back control, I had to realize that it had to start with me. It had to with me taking responsibility for where I was going, rather than looking to everybody on the outside to fix my world. Although obviously there is a level of that because you know, therapy, like I said, but in terms of the blaming part. So for me, it's about, I guess, where am I going? I'm going about talking about radical responsibility, I suppose.
Mm.
Where do you stand with that? Because for me, it gave me back a lot of control when I was like, no, I just need to take control here, and the way that I'm going to do that and what feels right for me is that I take responsibility.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. And I I love the phrase radical responsibility. I don't know if I've ever heard that phrase together, and it's really gorgeous and it's a meaningful phrase. Similarly to you, in my younger years, it was easy for me to feel like the victim. It
Mm,
was easy for me to feel like, why doesn't that person see I'm just trying to be there for them, for example, not realizing for me that was very codependent.
yeah.
And a lot of my behaviors in my younger years were codependent. Um, I didn't realize until my late 20s. I didn't really realize until my late 20s, like really, that you can only change yourself. You cannot change other people. And so acceptance is key. I was probably 27, 28 when the penny dropped and I got it.
Yeah.
So when I say I got it, that means I took responsibility for the messiness that I was and
Mm,
for the things that had leaked onto other people. Now, I'm not saying they were disgusting and all of that, but they were behaviors that I know now I could have regulated with the
yeah.
right kind of tools. If that makes sense.
Mm,
So accountability, radical responsibility, it's the end all be all for me. And one of the things that I've learned here in nine and a half years now, it's because of Gary being exceptional at being accountable, is the minute you take accountability, authentic accountability, it changes the conversation. It changes the energy. It changes how someone else is feeling because you just take it. That's on me. That's my bad. I got, you know what? Next time I'm going to do that differently.
mm,
And then we can continue on. But before that is taken, it's stagnation. The energy doesn't go anywhere. You're not doing anything. There's no
mm,
momentum.
yeah.
So I have learned from one of the best, and I back to, do I believe in it? Yes. Radical responsibility. And, I have two very young kids, and I look forward to teaching them that as they get much, much, much older.
Yeah. I see you. I see a few pictures on Instagram and that of you and your children. It's so wonderful to see. And yeah, they can teach us so much. Children, my children are very 24 years old now. So, but they're still teaching me. They're still teaching me. But yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
that. And thank you for sharing your take on it, because it's something, I guess, sometimes I've been, one thing that, Gary does really well and you do really well is you have an opinion and you're not afraid to share that opinion. And I think this is something that I've leaned into and been leaning into more, is not being afraid to share my opinion. And obviously, like in the past, because I think it takes courage for us to do that, where there's a lot of people that will maybe cast judgment, and I've always got something to say, maybe not always in the nicest of ways, but there's ways that we can do and share our point of view. And how you come across, how Gary comes across is very strong and very clear with your opinion and your message. And radical responsibility, for me, it starts with you. Whole thing is my opinion. And I've been looking at ways of sort of how to express that more, and not without fear of the judgment or the comeback, because I actually do it with love, and I'm doing it in a loving way to help myself, but also to help other people help themselves when they find themselves on their ass, or really struggling with life. Do you find it difficult to, because you're from the outside, you could look at your job and think, oh, chief heart officer, what a great job, but there has got to be times, I'm sure, when you're dealing with several hundred people, 2,000 people, that every day is not roses, rainbows and unicorns. There's difficult conversations, and your opinion has to really be, I guess, pushed. Maybe that's not the right word.
I mean, it's a challenge because we're dealing with human beings and their lives. And, people come into the workplace already having been awake for 2 hours, 3 hours, walked the dog, gone to the gym, had a fight with their partner. I mean, and then they get into the workplace and they try to bring their all, and something triggers them and their cortisol levels go up and their anxiety is heightened and it all goes kaput, right? We're human beings, we are all seeing the devastation right now happening in Israel. That's something I have to address today. In fact, as we're recording this podcast, it happens to be World Mental Health Day.
Yeah.
That email that I just wrote took me a solid hour to write, because it was essential that it was authentic and it was real. It was real information. And I wanted to make sure that all 2,000 people felt it. There are conversations that we have when, for example, an employee is not doing their best, and we need to, get them on the right plan, a growth plan, or we know that they're not the strongest they could be here, but they could be so strong as a account director in another company. But yeah, fundamentally, I mean, I'll tell you what, going back to social and whatnot, for me, what I talk about feels very common sense. I don't think it's PhD level. I think it is about love. That is what I think it's about. And this job for me is a spiritual job. It's not even a job, it's a role, it's who I am. And so being with people, even in these hard conversations, it wakes me up. It makes me present. And when I'm present, I don't have to worry about all the little niggles that are going on in my own mind as a human, if that makes sense. I can do what it is I believe I'm here to do, which is to facilitate growth and change and to be of joyful service and all the stuff that you've already talked about.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. I mean, I know that you do a lot of podcasts. You speak a lot, and you probably get a lot of similar questions asked of you. I guess so. I think, what I guess what's one thing that you would love to talk about that you never get asked about or you never get to share?
Well, I got to tell you, the questions that you just asked me about radical responsibility, the way in which you pose that is is not anything that I've actually been asked before in such a clear-cut way.
Hmm.
I think me sharing with you that what I do is not only an honor, it's very spiritual, is something that I don't share a lot about, for no other reason than sometimes, just like love in the workplace, sometimes people might have issue with spirituality, but I've been more vocal about that on LinkedIn lately.
Hmm.
Showing up for people is a real honor. And I've had people show up for me in my life, even when I didn't want them to.
Hmm.
And I'll never forget that. So back to your question, is there anything I want to talk about? It's this. I mean, what else is there to talk about other than the lived experience of us all and within the workplace? That's what I do all day. So
Yeah. No, and I love that you're bringing the more spiritual side of Claude into the workplace, because I see that a little bit. I see the curve changing a little bit in terms of spiritual leaders, more intuitive leaders, which I've lent into my spiritual side a lot more. Again, a few years ago when I was really down, I lent into Buddhism, and I'm the universe has a way of delivering the right people at the right time, and I met a spiritual leader and somebody that really helped me, and that's continued on my journey, and I do talk about that more, probably again a bit like you, maybe not as much, because I think, I do hold back a little bit, but I'd see the curve changing, and I really like that. I really like that it is changing, that you're bringing that, because what I see from you and what is that, all 2,000 employees, they have a life outside of Vayner. And a lot of companies and corporations think that life stops when they cross the office threshold, or, when they come in
mhm.
the front door. What I sense from you, and from, listening to Gary, is that that's not so much the case there, that it's almost encouraged that you bring your whole self into the workplace.
Yes. In fact, I'm just going to read you a sentence that I wrote in this email I sent out to all 2,000 people across the globe.
Hmm.
At Vayner X, we support the whole of you, not just the happy or the successful parts, all of you. And that's key, all
Hmm.
of you. And we try to take care of and partner with you on all of that as much as we possibly can. We believe that there's solutions to everything. I'm not able to affect someone's health, obviously, but within these four walls, there's really not a whole lot that we can't solve.
Hmm.
If you want to move teams, if you want to move departments, these are all conversations to have. It's all about conversing, and it's all about connecting. And, yes, people come into work and they feel as though they have to put their armor up. That's a learned behavior. I just want to be so super clear about it.
Hmm.
We don't grow up like that.
Hmm.
We don't grow up, feeling like, oh my God, we have to start to shelter ourselves until we expose ourselves to the media, expose ourselves to social media, expose ourselves to the pain that can be out there. But again, I have a 2-year-old, and we are teaching her to be kind and compassionate right now. And we're teaching the 5-year-old to do the same. So we come into this earth like that.
Hmm.
We come in, and somewhere around the line, down the line, we learn or feel that it's not okay to be ourselves.
Yeah.
And what we want to do here at Vayner is continue to create that safe space where people feel like they can be their authentic selves. And we have a ways to go. We are
Yeah.
not utopia here. every day. Oh my goodness, it's a massage every single day. And I don't mean massage in like the peaceful way. I mean, this is work. We all have bias. We all have opinions, and by no means do we expect anyone to have the same opinions as everyone else. My expectation is that people will be generous, and they'll be kind,
Mm.
and they'll be curious here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And, you know, it just given me goosebumps by reading. Thank you for sharing that piece that you've sent out today on World Mental Health Day. But yeah, just that is just so beautiful, that, you know, creating that space and giving that message to all 2,000 of the staff there, that, you know, we want the whole of you and all of you. And I wish that, you know, organizations could see that a lot clearer, that, you know, we have to embrace all of everybody, the real, you know, and allow them to be who they really are. This is really how we bring out the best in people.
Yes, and it's good for your bottom and top line revenue.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing. When people say, okay, this is all fun and all that stuff, what's the ROI here? What's the ROI? And it's like, what's not the ROI of creating safety and happiness? You're going to have people that want to be here. You're going to retain top talent.
Yeah.
You're going to have people that want to, you know, put the brand out there because they love being here.
Yeah.
You know, it's all of it. So you're going to do great work. You're going to collaborate. You're going to feel like you can go over to that person over there and say, hey, can you teach me how to write that code? Can you teach me Photoshop? So that's the name of the game. It's community. It's community.
Yeah, I love that. There's only one organization that I can think of that really stands out for me here in the UK that I've had dealings with. I won't name them, but and I've heard a lot of people talking good things about this company, and somebody I know went to work for them, and or they went in there to take their resume in there, as you would say, you know, CV. And they said, oh, just going in there, the energy just felt so positive, and they'd heard really good things about this organization. And they just go above and beyond for their staff. That, like you said, people who work there talk very highly of the company. They want to stay, and they retain their staff very, very well. People there long term. You know, the health benefits, the open communication, the way the office flows, and the environment in there. It's just like, whatever you need, like, bring your whole self here. We're going to help you with your well-being, and we're going to help you with your mental and your physical health. We're going to sit you down. I think it's 3 times a year or something like that. We're going to have an open, honest conversation with you. What do you need? What can we do? And the payoff is bottom and top line. It's the energy. You know, for me, it's about the energy that creates in the building, but it's the energy that it creates before, and it's the energy that it creates after. They got, like, because a lot of people go home from work and they're like, oh my God, I just can't wait to get out there. Like, they're going home and they're going to their loved ones, and they're going to dump their shit on their partners, you know, on the table at home over breaking of the bread. But you're creating an absolute different energy flow, right? That just completes it. It completes this circle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you said something that's so incredibly important, which is, if you are getting fed and nourished where you work, and you are nourishing other people by showing up and being of service, you are going to bring that to the world. It's not just the cloak you put on for 8 or 9 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's just not. It's not. I believe that, and that's the infinity. That's the karmic wheel. That's everything that you and I both believe. So that's, I think, a lot of why the messaging I share out on social is really, hey, we can all do this.
Yeah.
There's not one of us that is incapable of being kind.
Yeah.
There's not one of us that is incapable of lending a hand and giving someone your generosity or your attention. There's not one of us. It's a
Yeah.
choice. Intentional.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Claude. Yeah, it is a choice. And I think generosity is one of those words. We tend to think with generosity, we're talking about gift giving of money and you know, but generosity of time, generosity of listening, generosity of appreciation, all of those things come under that umbrella of generosity. And there's so many things that we can cover with it. So yeah, I just want to pick up on that word because I really, really love it. I'm conscious of time and I obviously don't want to keep you too long. I'm sure we got a million things to do. I guess, you know, just a couple of little bits to sort of wrap it up really. Um, if I was to speak to you again in 3 years' time and you'd had the most amazing 3 years, what do you think you'd be saying to me?
Oh my gosh. What I will be saying to you is my kids are the most incredible, loving, curious, generous, funny human beings. And they crack me up every single day. What I'll be sharing with you is I have not only seen, I have felt an actual shift in corporate culture. And there is more tenderness, there is more awareness coming in.
Mm.
And I will say, you know what? How can I make your day more peaceful?
That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Claude, for that. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time today. I know I don't know what time it is there in New York. I guess about
It's
11.
still morning,
Yeah,
11:45. Still
11,
morning.
11:45. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. It's been a long time in the making and making this happen, but I really appreciate you, yeah, sparing me
Thank you,
this
Sam.
time this morning.
Thank you. We could talk forever, and hopefully we have
Probably.
another opportunity.
I've got like
So,
pages of
yeah.
questions, but like I said, I'm aware of your, you know, time and I don't want to keep
Well,
you too
maybe
long.
there'll be a part two.
Let's hope so.